What is the greatest obstacle to the awakening process? Well, the mind is the greatest obstacle, but I'd like to go into more depth into why it's the greatest obstacle and what exactly is it? What is the mind? The mind is best described as a tool, an incredible tool, a tool that makes all the tools that humans use. So it's sort of like a creation machine for making physical objects, making forms. So we can use it to create all sorts of things. So in itself, the mind is not dysfunctional. It is actually a great gift that we were given thousands of years ago. And it's allowed humans to develop beyond whatever existed on our planet to date. We were able to do things that seem like magic just a few hundred years ago. Maybe even just 100 years ago, some of the things that we can do today would be seen as magic or witchcraft. And so the mind is not the problem, and we should not make our mind an enemy or think that there's something wrong with it. The trouble comes in when we only ever know that, when we only ever look at the world through the mind, which the mind is able to categorize, create, visualize. We can do many, many things with our mind. And we need to know, though, there is limitations to the mind. Right now, it seems like we're taught that the mind can know everything, that it can see all, do all, it could do a lot. It could do a lot. But it is limited, and it is not this all-knowing, all-seeing God that we basically think it is. We think that all of the things of the world can be solved, all the problems can be solved with the mind only. It's important to know that the mind is limited. It is limited in the sense that it's only able to see objects and understand objects and forms. We're getting into the realm of quantum physics, and the mind can't really understand that something can be in two places at once. It's like it's either here or it's there. It can't be 1 and 0 at the same time, but it is. So even now we're starting to notice that there is a certain limitation to our ability to think. And if you just see 1 and 0 and that they are separate and they exist independently, and you either have 1 or you have 0, right? That's how the mind thinks. That's how the mind interprets things. And we're now starting to see its limitations. We're starting to see just how far the mind will get us. And this is why we're moving into dysfunction as humans. Our minds are becoming dysfunctional because they have gone, not to say that there's not going to be more knowledge and more information, but the mind, we've reached the limit of what the mind is capable of, and we're moving into greater and greater dysfunction because the mind was never developed to also provide the meaning of life or to tell you who you are. Mind was never really created to be completely identified with, and that lies the dysfunction of what is happening to humans. We believe that our entire identity can be found in the mind. We are identified with everything that we think, everything that we feel, every belief, thought. We hold on to them as if they are our very existence. And that is seeing things from a limited perspective, from just the mind. There also exists another part to life. And the reason we can verify this very easily just by looking at nature. And that's why being in nature is so wonderful. It feels good to be here because the nature, the forest is not dominated by the mind. The human world is. So if you go into a really busy city, it can be overwhelming and you feel like I can't. When you go through the awakening, you can also be in the busy city. It's not a big deal. But you prefer the forest. You'll say, oh, well, I'd rather go to the forest or go to nature. The mind is not here. You look around, the trees aren't thinking anything. They're just being trees. The entire natural world exists outside of the mind. And as much as we try to write all the books and understand everything about nature, there's a lot here. The mind can't grasp all of nature and the universe. You can write words to describe things, but to actually experience it, you need to come here. You can't just read a book about it and understand the forest. You need to be here in order to understand it. And so that is the other part of ourselves, the part that we haven't really noticed. It's the experience of being alive, not just as thoughts in our head, but a lived aliveness experience. It's being here. It's touching the tree. It's smelling the air. It's hearing the thunder. It's all of it. And you just can't write this in a book. You can't tell somebody about it in your mind and then somehow they have experienced it too. You can't just talk about it. You have to go to the place. You need to go to the forest. You need to go to the feeling of aliveness inside of you. You need to experience what it is to be alive and not just thinking you're alive, but actually being alive, being here. You enjoy just being here, sitting, walking, out in nature, little rain, sound of rain, sound of thunder, the sound of the wind, all of it. You experience all of it, and you know what it is to be alive. Thank you.